Well, happy Sunday. I don't know why I'm doing a video on a Sunday, but I've done a lot. I've run a lot this weekend, and when I run, I think a lot. So when I have 2.0 thoughts and they dominate my thinking, I kind of want to capture what's in my mind. I think this weekend's been a very important evolution in my thinking, and most of that's been as a result of the things that I've read this week, and those that get the newsletter had a sense of what's really been in my mind, but I've kind of advanced that thinking. So more of this will be in next week's newsletter and what I'll share this week. But I've been thinking a lot about the perception layer as I define it. Geospatial 2.0 on the sort of the technical side has these three elements essentially: the perception layer, the reasoning layer or the reasoning engine, and then the agentic or action layer. And they map over to context, insight, intelligence and action, how we best explain that stuff. And I've been thinking how important the perception layer is. And I've also been thinking how this fits in with kind of the 1.5 and GIS world, and kind of mapping these things against one another. So the perception layer is, I use the analogy of your senses, what you pick up around you. And there are really two elements to the perception layer. There's the context, the elements that make up what you're interested in or what you're studying, the house, the river, the lamppost, whatever it might be. Those are kind of the objects. In the GIS world, that stuff's stored in a geodatabase. So all of those foundational things with metadata, that's in a geodatabase. So that's kind of the library of objects, if you like. When you combine those objects together on a map, that gives you a level of understanding of relationships, patterns, etc. First level. So a house sits in a floodplain, or a house sits by a river. You know, you can see that stuff. That's in the GIS world. That's the 1.5 world, I should say. That's when the human enters the loop. So you take the data, you bring it together on a map, and then you as an analyst look at that data and try and build out this, what I'm going to say, and very importantly in this talk, this kind of first level of insight, those high level relationships. And this is where the analytical tools come in. So you've got lots of tools within the GIS world that can help you understand that first level of insight. So the human is taking the contextual pieces where we take things out of the geodatabase, put it on a map, and then we do the insightful piece, that first level of insight from a human perspective. Where 2.0 is completely different to that is we're really talking about using AI to do that whole thing. So the perception layer is really, there's no human in the loop there. So we can think of a workflow where a remote sensing company collects lots of different types of data, they process that data, they fuse that data together, and then there is, and I'm going to look down, so excuse me, because I've written this down, I've written my notes down. I don't usually do this, but you'll excuse me. So there's really that level of automatic semantic enrichment. That's really critical. So those early patterns, those sort of initial relationships are formulated by AI. They're not formulated by a human anymore. That's one huge step forward that 2.0 maps out, and is where we already start that journey that makes it different to the 1.5 world. So once we've got that context and that insight, and I think I should add one more thing that's different to 1.5. This is, in this machine world that's this perception layer, this is stuff that's changing all the time. So we're feeding real-time data into the system. So it's static stuff, it's real-time stuff. It's a house, it's a river, it's a big storm that's moving towards us, and maybe there's going to be a flooding event. So that stuff is always updating, it's always being fed into the brain, the reasoning engine. And that's the next piece of this. And where I've really sort of thought this one through and wanted to sort of share in this video is, that's where we get this next level of insight. This is where we're not talking 1.5 anymore at all. There's no 1.5 in this world. And what we're really talking about here is the why behind the patterns. So again, we're using AI to have that much deeper level of insight. And this is kind of how our prefrontal cortexes work. How we gather all the information, get that sort of initial level of understanding and pattern, and then we think more deeply about it. That's another level of insight, and that's where our brain and our intelligence starts to kick in, and that's where we start making conclusions about things at that deeper level. That's a really important piece of the reasoning engine. Now, the Genius platform I've mentioned many times from Versys. I'm a little bit of a broken record on this, but Versys are far ahead in terms of what they're doing in that middle layer, particularly in that reasoning engine layer. And they're using active inference, which I'm going to talk about this week. I won't talk about it here, which is a completely different way to do this reasoning piece, which is kind of why they're quite unique. It's in that place where we can think about a prefrontal cortex and how we use our intelligence, given this updating context and insight, to make some conclusions about next things we should do. From there, we then move into the agentic layer. And that's really where we action things, where we are driven to, we've taken all of the information we've got, we've used an intelligence piece to come to some conclusions about what we should do right now. The fire is closing in on us. Our team have to escape. Where's our best escape route? It's right there. We need to move now. So there's an active piece. I've used that example before. But what we're really talking about here is in this whole journey is having machine learning and AI all process this stuff. So there's no human in the loop. What I will say is we need a human in the loop, particularly as we build out these systems, and those humans in the loops are really interacting with the reasoning engine once it presents its list of recommendations to do what to do next. It's then up to a SME or a subject matter expert to actually go, okay, we need to do this, and from the actions you've given me, we need to do that. So we're still in the loop, but a lot of the work is now being done by AI. And it's no longer this kind of analyst in the middle in that really early part of the process that's really just generating insight. So I hope that helps. I think that where I've been thinking about is, what does this present to existing business models? I mean, as an example, and again, I'll share more of this in the week, this thinking, but if you're a remote sensing company, for example, and I used that example earlier, what are you missing in terms of what you could be providing in this new 2.0 world? It raises lots of new opportunities for established companies. It isn't any longer delivering products for analysts to visualize and make inferences from. It's building out this semantic enrichment piece from the data that you've processed to then be able to be delivered into a reasoning engine. So there's a huge opportunity for the established players to actually play in this new space, but they have to be thinking about it. They can't be thinking in the old way, in the 1.5 way, because it's totally different. This is a new opportunity. So the 2.0 world, not only does it open up new opportunities for new companies to be incredibly innovative, like Versys and others, it also opens up business opportunities for established players. But if they're stuck in their old way of thinking, if inertia is in their way, which in many cases it is, they've got to protect their existing business models, and we know the best way, so we'll keep doing it. There is that Blockbuster's Netflix scenario where they might go out of business in time. So it could be a huge opportunity for them, or it could be the death knell of their company. So I will talk more about this, but as I build out this conversation and share it, and again, for those who have signed up to the newsletter, thanks ever so much. Ever more people are signing up, and I'm always welcoming your input on this stuff. If you disagree with what I'm saying, feel free to tell me. But we're building out this story week after week. We're building out this story, and we're beginning to connect all the dots. And I hope these talks, this one's a little bit too long, I wanted to make this shorter. I hope these talks and what I'm posting each week gives you food for thought about what's happening, because it's inevitable. It's going to be one of those signs when where we look back. Gabriel René writes something on this from Versys about, oh my God, why didn't we see this coming? Well, I'm telling you what's coming. Believe me, this is coming. Don't be late to the party. So anyway, a long talk, I apologize, but I hope that helps, again, us build that picture and connect the dots of this evolving world of 2.0. Thanks for watching for today.